everyone. I am on the road picking up a kid. This is how I spend a lot of time as a mom. I am a forensic psychology consultant. I also am a substitute teacher, and I also am a mother to 8 children. I have 2 stepkids, 1 adopted daughter, and 5 biological children. And this all keeps me very busy. So I may not have mentioned this before, but I do have a master's degree in forensic psychology. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education, and I'm almost done with my PhD in forensic psychology. So I have a lot of education and quite a bit of experience, about 25 to 30 years in education in all different capacities. And now I have about 10 years experience in the field of forensic psychology, working primarily with domestic violence victims in a consultancy that my new husband and I, well, not so new, we're almost 10 years married, but we founded together. Okay, so part 2 of how to not be a victim of a serial killer. I have a few things that I just want to cover. So if you watch part 1, you know that we're talking about a documentary on Peacock called The Toolbox Killer. So there's a forensic psychologist who actually did the work for this documentary, and she did some amazing research. There are some forensic psychologists who specialize in serial killers, and what they do is they ask questions. They try to interview these serial killers either via phone, video chat, or in person. And they ask questions about the events and about the feelings that these folks have about the crimes they've committed. These very talented individuals who do this kind of work, I mentioned Dr. Eric Hickey in the last video. He is one of the instructors at the university I'm currently attending, and he has done a lot of work with serial killers as well. He has some books out there that you can read and check out, and he shares some of his findings and information. So in order to get good information, one needs to establish a rapport with these people, and you need to gain their trust. Now, this is not work that I could ever do, but I'm very grateful because what we get from their interviews is really good insight into the behavioral patterns of serial killers and other persons who commit violent crime. And it is good to remember that, this requires hours on a phone or visiting in prison in order to gain that rapport with these people and get information. One thing I noticed in this documentary was that when the forensic psychologist who worked on this case, it was a young lady, is doing the interviews, she is very good at distancing herself and very good at maintaining professionalism. But she's a human being, and she definitely has feelings about what she is hearing and about her interactions with this person. And she does, there are times when she does appear to get too close to this gentleman. In fact, there's an former FBI agent on the documentary as well, and they interview her and they talk to her, and she kind of expresses this, that you need to be really careful not to get too close to these people. And that is true. At this point in my career, I've promised my kids I'm not going to work with serial killers. My kids are teenagers and 20-somethings, and they have a lot of concern for their mom's welfare. And, they're also concerned for their welfare, the welfare of their children and, significant others as well. So that is not work that I'm going to do, because even outside of prison, sometimes these individuals have contacts and they can, stalk or harm your family if they feel that you're misrepresenting them or sharing things that they didn't want shared or using them in any way. So I just need to say, people who are research psychologists, like the young lady on the show, bravo to you. because from you, we gain valuable information that we need to help protect people and keep people safe. So currently I'm working on a study to finish my PhD, and my dissertation topic is also involves doing interviews with police officers. And again, the reason that we do this kind of qualitative research, we talk to people about events, about their feelings, what they saw, what they heard, all of these sorts of things, is to gain insight into behavioral patterns. If we can identify consistent patterns, then we can make predictions and we can help keep people safe. So having said that, a little bit more background about sociopaths and psychopaths, because this episode definitely touches on this. When it comes to the psychopath, Dr. Robert Hare is one of the world's best experts. He has developed a test called the psychopathy checklist. Now, it is designed for psychopaths, and when these questions are asked of psychopaths, they can be identified for what they are. Again, both a psychopath and a sociopath are very good at malingering. They're very good at lying about who they are and what they do and how they feel and all these things. So to have the psychopathy checklist, which allows us to really know whether this person meets that criteria or not, is very valuable. As for sociopaths, my favorite expert is Dr. Martha Stout. She has read a book. It's not a terribly long book. It's a very interesting, well-written book called The Sociopath Next Door. She's done a lot of work with sociopaths. So if you are interested in learning more about sociopaths, she definitely is the researcher to read on that topic. So in order to find out if someone's a sociopath, there is a test called the MMPI. It is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. And again, it's a series of questions, and it will tell if a person is a sociopath or not. Antisocial personality disorder is something that this test identifies. So let me just say, on the internet, a lot, I see these terms thrown around: psychopath, sociopath. But there's very specific criteria that people have to meet in order to be diagnosed this way. And the diagnosis can only truly come from someone who is a licensed psychology professional and who has conducted these tests with these individuals. So these labels are very specific, and they mean very specific things. And the only way to truly know whether somebody is a sociopath or psychopath is for them to be tested by a psychology professional. Anyone who tells you otherwise is just making stuff up. Okay, sociopaths. 1 in 25 people, according to Martha Stout, is a sociopath. So there is a continuum, just like there is with autism. Some people are sociopaths, but they will never be a serial killer. They're just your average mean girl, someone who treats people really badly. And then, of course, on the other end of the spectrum is the sociopath who's a serial killer. Many prisoners in our prison system right now meet the criteria for sociopath. Okay. Watching my time here, as I only have a little bit of time, I want to say the last thing that I really wanted to get to in this video series, and that is that there are ways to sort of thwart the intentions of a serial killer. Now, as you know, the Toolbox Killer definitely targeted young girls. Women who are teenagers and early 20s, they do seem to be the most prevalent victims. They are the ones that are most often sought after. But boys and young men can also be victims. So here are some tips for how to not be a victim of a serial killer. Do your best not to become homeless. Homeless people who are involved in prostitution, are very vulnerable to serial killers and to other people perpetrating crimes. So being homeless is not a situation that you want to be in. And I know people say, well, it's not my fault. This happened. Well, I'm just going to say this. I left a domestic violence perpetrator who was very dangerous with 5 small children, and we were not homeless. And we were not homeless because I was willing to work stupid jobs that didn't pay very much and work as many hours as I had to. I was willing to accept help from family and friends, from my local community, from Health and Human Services, anybody who would help us so that we didn't become homeless. And it was really hard for about 3 years. And then things got a lot better. So I just want to encourage you that if you are, really struggling financially, there are ways to do this. I did have a roommate at a certain point who had great references from mutual friends. Sometimes you have to be willing to sacrifice in order to keep your family safe and keep yourself safe. So don't be homeless. Don't be alone if you can help it. Don't go places alone if you can help it. I always tell my kids buddy system, and buddy system really is the safest idea. These men, the toolbox killers, they actually looked for girls who were alone. So try not to be alone. Be more aware of your surroundings. Eerily, this was advice. This was something that the serial killer actually said to the interviewer. He said, one of his victims, they wouldn't have grabbed her if she had just been more aware of her surroundings. So please, we don't want to suggest hypervigilance where you're worried all the time about these things, but please pay attention. If you have a bad feeling about a person, a vehicle, a situation, please get yourself to safety as quickly as possible. Don't second guess yourself or your intuition. Pay attention to your surroundings. Be careful in public places or parties, like party places. People who are criminals look for opportunities in spaces where people feel safe and are vulnerable and are having a great time. So please be aware that even though it's great to go out and have fun, those are the situations where you might be more likely to be victimized. Okay, I think of the little girl who went missing at the resort in some South American country. Her family was there having a great time. It was their vacation, and they lost their little girl forever. So, it's fine to have fun and relax with your family and friends. But if you're in public places that are party places, that are places of leisure, perpetrators are looking for opportunities to commit those kinds of crimes. Okay, hitchhiking. Just don't do it. Bottom line is hitchhiking is so dangerous. Time and time again, we hear perpetrators talking about grabbing people while they are hitchhiking. Don't do it. Call somebody you know for a ride. Take a bus. It's even safer just to walk. But don't hitchhike. Don't ever hitchhike. Okay, the last thing is drugs and alcohol use. If you're a teenager, this is something you're probably going to do. You're probably going to drink. You're probably going to try drugs. When you do this, you become vulnerable. And you open up an opportunity for someone to perpetrate violence against you. Whether it's rape or abduction or theft or something more serious, like a serial killer grabbing you. When you are not aware of what's going on around you because you are drunk or you are high, you are putting your life at risk because you're making yourself vulnerable to these kinds of people who might want to hurt you. So the last thing is, and I don't want to be too scary here, but if you do get grabbed by somebody, okay, Don't beg for your life. If they've grabbed you, they intend to hurt you. Try to get away and fight. Be loud and do everything in your power to get away from them. Don't bargain. Don't bargain for your life. Don't beg for your life. Okay, I have to go, but I just want to say be safe and pass this information on to your family and your friends. We want everybody to be safe. We want to make sure that you guys have a great life. All right, goodbye until next time.